At the time of making this video, it's getting warmer and sunnier across much of Lithuania. Therefore, it's much more pleasant to be walking around outside. With so many great towns and cities to check out, I thought it would be worth asking the question, is street food a thing in Lithuania? And if so, what types of food count in this category? So, this question will be the topic of today's video. So let's just jump right into it. First off, what does the term street food even mean? At least to me, I think it is food that is sold by street-side vendors, most often from carts, stalls, or food trucks. This food is often portable in nature, and most of the times, it's also food that can be eaten while walking. So that's what I think street food is, but what about the dictionary? Well, the Oxford Dictionary defines street food as being prepared or cooked food sold by vendors in a street or other public location for immediate consumption. So I don't think I'm too far off. And how does this apply to Lithuania? Well, in terms of my preliminary research, well, it kind of doesn't. A few people that responded to my inquiry about Lithuanian street food said that there wasn't really a street food scene in the country. But why is this? One contributor says that he thinks the cold Lithuanian winters prevent any major kind of street or fast food culture. Aivaras writes that the lack of a street food culture is mainly because of three factors. The first is a business startup cost such as rent and taxes. The second has to do with regulations and approval to sell food on the street. Both these factors, Aivaras says, make street food an expensive business to run, and no one wants to pay 8 to 12 euros per item for street food. His third factor was the same as the other contributor, citing the cold winters and the fact that there are just a few months of the year where street food culture can come alive. Some people I asked suggested that kebab/kebabas or doner kebab.
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 No, look at mouth. Kebab.
Ba.
Bape.
Babe.
Kebabi.
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 Radio, no, now you're getting.
Are essentially Lithuania's modern form of street food and street food culture. I can see what they mean. In an average, everyday kind of context, I don't think there are people selling this on the street, but I do agree that doner kebab shops have become one of the more popular sources of a quick and relatively cheap meal or snack to enjoy while walking. In cities, there are kebab places throughout the town centers, but even in smaller towns, you're also likely to find a kebabine or two. It's definitely not an exclusively Lithuanian thing, of course, because from Dublin to London to Paris to Berlin, kebab shops are everywhere, and in terms of street-friendly food, it's often what people go for.
The Doner, meaty alternative food to drunk people all over Canada.
As far as I know, Lithuania doesn't have its own region-specific style of doner kebab, and it just depends on the individual shop and the origin of the shop owners. I do think that there is some food in Lithuania that would be good foundations for a street food scene. Here's what I'm thinking. First, I think the humble kibiness is probably the closest thing to a long-standing Lithuanian street food type of item. These are crescent-shaped pastries, often filled with some kind of meat. There are other versions though, which could range from a spinach and cottage cheese filling to an all-mushroom filling. Kibiness, or the plural kibine, can be eaten with one hand and definitely while walking. The fact that the company Senoji Kibinine sells its kibine out of trucks and small stalls is proof that it's the closest thing to a Lithuanian street food, at least in my opinion. The other thing I would suggest as part of a hypothetical Lithuanian street food culture is the chabarekis, which if pluralized is chabareki. Chabareki are deep-fried turnovers with a filling of ground or minced meat and onions. They are made with a single round piece of dough folded over the filling in a crescent shape. The environment most often associated with the sale and consumption of chabareki is on Lithuania's coast, on the beaches of Palanga and Šventoji. Multiple people I discussed this topic with instantly recalled the fact that the phrase karšti chabareki šaltas alus was a common sound on Lithuanian beaches during the holiday season.
Chabareki! Karšti!
Pas visus tas pats.
This translates to hot chabareki, cold beer. The sale of chabareki on the beach is well understood to be part of the culture. Although if I understand things correctly, it's a back and forth battle between authorities and vendors. While chabareki on beaches, resorts, and other public places is not prohibited, vendors must be registered with the government. I think it's this last step that a lot of beach vendors have avoided, hence the ongoing activity of vendors getting caught by the police and being fined. This struggle is covered in the Lithuanian short film Chabareki Pardavėja, which I found on YouTube. Oh, and fun fact, apparently both kibiness and chabareki originate in Crimea from the Tatars, which I find pretty interesting. These two items have a similar general shape, but kibiness are baked while chabareki are deep fried. So there are a few other things to note. In Palanga especially, there are stalls and carts that sell corn on the cob. This most often comes from the yellow and green stalls with kukuruku in big letters. But as far as I know, this is a leisurely thing and not something you'll find in many other towns and cities. I also find that in many Senuke hardware stores, there's a little stall located in the lobby of the building. Here you'll find a lot of pastries that I would consider street food. You might also find this guy, who seemed to be more than happy to make himself known to my camera phone. I think this stall outside Senuke is conveniently placed for people to grab food on their way out as they conduct their business of buying home and garden supplies. Apart from this, I think Lithuania does have a street food scene at markets and fairs and special events. At major fairs like the St. Casimir Fair, or Kaziukas in Lithuanian, you'll see all sorts of food being sold from stalls. From the rice dish of plovas, to mussels, to a plate full of meat. At Christmas time, at Christmas markets, you might also find some vendors selling a hot bowl of stew. But yeah, if we are really honest with ourselves, there's no well-established, year-round general street food scene in Lithuania. Certainly not in the way you'd find in other parts of the world like Asia, Africa, and the Middle East.
The beating heart of Hong Kong's food scene is undisputedly on the street.
And Nairobi also still embraces its traditional side with food vendors selling popular local dishes right on the street.
And we're gonna take you on an ultimate Azerbaijani Baku street food tour.
In this video, I'm gonna check out the German street food scene and show you the most popular street food shops you must try in Berlin.
Still, there are Senoye kibiness shops located everywhere, and many supermarkets sell the same handheld pastries in their bakery sections. And so, what do you think of Lithuania and street food? Do you agree with my assessment, or is there anything you would change or add? Let me know by leaving a comment. And now, for the Lithuanian word of the day, let's be a little more literal this time and go with gatvės maistas, which means street food in Lithuanian. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.